Hello, this video will talk about the Canadian workplace culture. As a newcomer, you may find Canadian workplace culture different from that of your home country. Practices such as use of personal names and methods of communicating with coworkers and supervisors vary greatly amongst cultures. While Canadian work environments do vary depending on the employer and the type of job, there are basic business etiquette rules that are common to most Canadian workplaces, and learning these rules is an important step in looking for and keeping a job. So this presentation will explore some of the essentials of the Canadian workplace culture. Nonverbal communication, also known as body language, is important when creating first impressions in the workplace. This includes job interviews and first interactions with coworkers and customers. Positive body language shows confidence and respect for others. Now, please keep in mind that some of the points I will be talking about, like the personal space and shaking hands, are mentioned under what used to be considered normal circumstances. As things are changing now, when you go back to work or in the future, and considering the current events, of course, you might be required to maintain a distance of 6 feet from your coworkers, for example. It is always important to check with your employer and stay up to date with the latest information from the government when possible. So let's say at some point in the near future, you are not required to stay 6 feet apart at work. Let's discuss personal space. Canadians value their personal space and rarely touch each other while meeting or talking in the workplace. It is the custom to keep approximately 2 feet or an arm's length of space between each other when talking face to face. Standing too close can make the other person feel uncomfortable, and standing too far away appears to indicate that you're simply not interested. Eye contact. In a conversation, direct eye contact shows that you're interested and paying attention. People who avoid eye contact may be considered unfriendly, untrustworthy, or simply lacking in self-confidence. However, be careful not to stare or maintain unbroken eye contact for long periods. Shaking hands. Again, if social distancing is not in effect at some point in the future, I'd like to briefly mention shaking hands. A firm handshake is a common practice when first meeting an employer, a new business associate, or a coworker. Both men and women greet with a handshake, and while shaking hands, it is also polite to make eye contact and smile. Dress or appearance. Every workplace has different policies regarding clothing and personal appearance. When you go for an interview or start a new job, it is usually best to dress more formally or conservatively until you learn more about the individual workplace culture and its expectations. You can always alter your dress when you become more familiar with your workplace. For the most part, the common dress code for offices is informal to casual for both men and women. However, jeans, shorts, revealing clothes are generally discouraged in office environments. Alternatively, if you are working in manual labor, for example, then perhaps jeans would be the best way to go. So again, it's going to come down to the workplace. A couple of tips I'd like to mention before we move on is to be aware of your body positioning, such as slouching or crossed arms and fidgeting that could give the impression of being bored or angry. And adjust your body language to the situation and person, so watch the other person you are speaking to for clues. And lastly, and I cannot stress this enough, when starting a new job, it is always best to be reserved and professional until you get a feel of what is normal in your workplace, what is expected. Communications basics. So, greetings. When passing people in hallways or arriving at work in the morning, it is customary to say hello or good morning and make eye contact. The same applies to leaving at the end of the day. It is courteous to say hello to all the co-workers regardless of their position in the company. Personal names and forms of address. So Canadian workplaces are generally quite casual. It is common to address co-workers and business associates by first name, even when talking to a manager or supervisor. However, when introducing someone, use both their first and last name. But please note that there are exceptions to this in formal settings or when addressing high-ranking officials. In these cases, it is common to use Mr., Miss, or Doctor and their last name, for example. Speaking up and asking questions. Now, this is a very important point to keep in mind because there are some cultures that discourage asking questions. It is basically frowned upon because it is assumed that the person is incompetent or simply does not know what they're doing. But let me assure you, it is quite different here in Canada. So you should try to participate in group discussions and meetings, even if only to ask a few questions. Contributing your own ideas or thoughts indicates that you're interested and want to be involved. However, do not interrupt the conversation, but wait for your turn to speak. Most employers prefer that you ask questions if you do not understand procedures or instructions, rather than be confused and make mistakes. Employers appreciate workers who are eager to learn new skills and adapt to changes in the workplace. Asking questions of colleagues and immediate supervisors is one of the best ways you can show your desire to learn and develop professionally. Small talk. Socializing and friendships are a normal part of workplace culture in Canada. Some small talk or conversation is actually expected, and it shows that you care about your colleagues. However, it is considered impolite to ask directly about personal affairs such as religion, age, or income. If a coworker shares personal details that make you uncomfortable, you can always change the subject. Socializing for a few minutes when you first arrive at work or leave for the day, or over coffee or lunch breaks is acceptable. Engaging in long conversations during office hours, however, is not. So, fitting in and keeping your job. Teamwork. In Canada, teamwork is highly valued. Working well with others, listening to others' ideas, and sharing responsibility are important skills. It is expected that you treat all co-workers with respect, from those working in entry-level positions to supervisors and managers. Punctuality. It is important to arrive on time for work or business appointments. Punctuality is valued by Canadian employers. So, let's say a meeting is set to start at 10 o'clock in the morning, for example. It is common practice to arrive a few minutes early so you're ready to start at 10 o'clock sharp. If you are going to be late, be sure to call your employers and let them know. Leaving work early is also looked upon unfavorably. Hierarchy. Most Canadian companies operate in a hierarchical or top-down system. This means employees are expected to follow their supervisor's direction. When making decisions, asking for information, or dealing with problems, you will be expected to talk to the right person within your company based on their level of authority. And courtesy. It is important to display respect and courtesy to everyone at all times. Make it a habit to use courtesy words such as please, thank you, and you're welcome when dealing with coworkers, managers, and customers. Before entering an office, always knock as a sign of respect for other people's workspace. Now, before we move on, I just want to mention a couple of traits or personal attributes that employers are usually looking for. Just something for you to keep in mind. Having a positive attitude or being motivated, being energetic, being honest, high performance, so achieving your goals, being flexible or adaptable and willing to work and learn. And of course, displaying leadership and management skills are all valuable skills. But at the end of the day, it's always going to come down to the type of job that you are doing. Meaning some jobs might require some of these traits, some might not. So again, it's going to come down to your work environment. Now, not all companies are the same. So every workplace has its own culture. Some standards and expectations may be written in policy manuals. However, some values and ways of communicating are unwritten. Often the easiest way to figure out a particular workplace culture is to observe others and to ask. So, written rules. Written rules are policies and procedures documented on paper or by a company or an organization. These rules help everyone understand their work responsibilities and may be found in documents such as the company's policy manual or code of conduct. In general, written rules include items such as hours of work, sick leave, vacation, and employee benefits. Unwritten rules, they're items that may vary from company to company. An example would be email and phone use. In general, work email and phone lines are intended for work purposes only. In most companies, it is best to avoid using them for personal reasons, except for emergencies. It is also recommended that you turn off your cell phone or put it on silent when at work and avoid answering it unless you are on a break. Personal business. So find out how you're expected to deal with your personal and family business. Examples of that is caring for the sick children or parents, medical appointments, making personal phone calls, and such. And sometimes these issues are actually included in the company's written rules, so keep an eye out for that. Breaks. Breaks are required by law. However, in some companies, breaks are formal, requiring you to take a coffee or a lunch break at a specific time. In other companies, you can take your break whenever you want. It is best to ask your supervisor. Lastly, scents and perfumes. Many workplaces no longer want employees to use perfume or cologne because others may have allergies. And you see that a lot nowadays. You see those signs that says no scent makes sense. And keep in mind that this is not limited to colognes or perfumes. It could be a strong body wash or oil, so always be mindful of it. Thank you all for watching this video. Take care.